Hi, this is your second maths lesson this week on fractions, and today we will be converting improper fractions to mixed numbers and vice versa, so also mixed numbers to improper fractions. Let's have a look at this one. We've got a number line and we've got to count in halves. So 0 plus a half, plus a half, plus a half, plus a half. What would we write at the bottom? So 0 add 1 half is 1 half. What's 1 half plus 1 half? So a half add a half equals a whole one. What's 1 plus a half? That's 1 1/2, and what's 1 1/2 plus a half? And that is 2. Also, you can think about this, so 0 plus 1 half equals 1 half. 1 half plus 1 half equals 2 halves. 2 halves plus 1 half equals 3 halves. And 3 halves plus 1 half equals 4 halves. So you can write them in different ways. So this is also the same as 2 halves. This is also the same as 3 halves. And this is also the same as 4 halves. And here we've got a half, add a half, add a half, add a half. 4 halves altogether, which is the same as 2 whole strips. This is an improper fraction. An improper fraction is where the numerator is greater than the denominator. So it's a fraction that's bigger than 1 that's not a whole number. So you've got 3 halves altogether. 3 is the numerator, 2 is the denominator. 3 halves is the same as 1 1/2. So 1 1/2 is a mixed number. It's a number with a whole number and a fraction. So it's 1 whole strip plus 1 half, and it's also the same as 3 halves. What could go in my part whole model? This is the whole, so 1 1/2. What two fractions add together to make 1 1/2? Pause the video while you think about it. So remembering that 1 1/2 is the same as 3 halves, what can we add together to make 3 halves? I could have 1 1/2, or I could have 2 halves plus 1 half. If you want to be really fancy, you could work out that 3 halves is the same as 6 quarters, because I've doubled the 3 to get 6 and doubled the 2 to get 4. I could think about what two fractions add together to make 6 quarters. So 1 quarter plus 5 quarters, 3 quarters plus 3 quarters, 2 quarters plus 4 quarters, and so on. This is a pictorial version. So again, I have got 3 halves, 1 whole one plus a half. What could make it up? I could have 1 whole one plus the half. What is the missing mixed number? So again, we've got a part whole model. I've got 2 parts and they add together to make a whole. And what is the missing mixed number? Remember, a mixed number is where you've got a whole number and a proper fraction next to it. So don't just write an improper fraction. Pause the video while you do this, remembering to simplify your fraction. So 2 plus 2 quarters is the same as 2 and 2 quarters, but thinking back to the beginning of yesterday, 2 quarters is the same as 1 half. So 2 plus a half equals 2 1/2. And we make sure that we write the whole number the same size as the proper fraction. How do the representations show mixed numbers and improper fractions? Let's have a think about it first together. So I've got a number line here. This goes from 0 up to 1, and this goes from 1 up to 2. How many jumps are there between 0 and 1? So it's 1, 2, 3 jumps. So what's the fraction that it's increasing by each time if there's 3 jumps between 0 and 1? It's thirds, isn't it? So 0, 1/3, 2/3, then a whole one. A whole one's the same as 3/3. What's one whole one plus 1/3? So it's 1 and a third. Remembering that adding on a third each time, so 3/3 plus 1/3 gives us 4/3. 1 and 1/3 plus another third gives you 1 and 2/3, which is the same as 5/3. And then 5/3 plus a third gives you 6/3, and that's the same as 2 whole ones. This line here means divide, so 6 divided by 3 equals 2. So this number line here now shows mixed numbers, 1 and 3/5, 1 and 3/3, 1 and 2/3, 1 and 1/3, and it also shows improper fractions, 4/3, 5/3, 6/3. Have a look at these and think about how you can write them as mixed numbers and improper fractions. Pause the video while you do this. So for this one, I've first got to work out what the fraction is going up in each time. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sections in one bar, which means that these are worth sixths. How many sixths have I got? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sixths. If I do a little bit of moving around, I can think about how many full bars there are. So if I move that one there, if I move that one there, that one there, and that one there, so I now don't have any of these, but these are now going to be yellow. How would I write this as a mixed number? I've got one whole one and I've got these 4. So we've got 10 sixths, and then what is the mixed number? I've got 1 and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sixths. 1 and 4 sixths. You might realise that I can simplify this. I can divide the 4 and the 6 by the same number. They're both in the 2 times table. So 1 and 2/3. Also be written like this. How can I show this as a mixed number and an improper fraction? See if this helps. How would you write what this represents as a mixed number and an improper fraction? Have a go now if you haven't already. So I've got 2 whole sections plus this 1/2. So I've got 2 and 1/2. And now I've split them all into halves. How many halves are blue? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 halves are blue. So 2.5 is the same as 5 halves. Well done if you got those right. Now this number line here shows mixed numbers and improper fractions, like we said before. So at the top you've got your improper fractions, at the bottom you've got your proper fractions, and then as it gets above 1 you've got your mixed numbers. 1 and 4 sixths, 10 sixths, 2.5, 5 halves. Here we've got 3 circles and they've been each split into 3 sections. think about the orange. What is it as a mixed number and as an improper fraction? Write both of them down. Pause the video while you do this. So I've got 2 whole circles, so my mixed number is 2 whole ones. And what is this fraction left over? I've got 1 out of 3 in orange. So 2 and 1 out of 3, 2 1/3. Improper fraction, so they're in thirds. How many thirds are orange? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 thirds are orange. Thinking about our part-whole model, so 7 thirds is the whole, and these all make up 7 thirds. 3 thirds, which is a whole one, plus 3 thirds, which is another whole one, so that's 2 altogether, plus a third, 2 and 1/3. This means divide, remember. 7 divided by 3. How many 3's go into 7? 2 whole ones and 1/3. Can you convert the improper fractions to mixed numbers? Remember, this means divide, so you've got to do 32 divided by 7. Pause the video while you have a go at working this out. So 32 divided by 7, counting sevens, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35's too many, so it was 4 whole ones. So we write 4 whole ones. And how many is left over? 7 fours were 28. What do you add to 28 to get to 32 to find your remainder? 28 in your head, 29, 30, 31, 32. So it's 4 remainder 4. As a fraction, remainder 4 is 4 as a numerator and 7 as a denominator because we're working in sevenths. So it's 4 and 4/7. Well done if you got that right. So 1/4 means 1 divided by 4. You've got a bar, you split it into 4 sections. 1 whole bar divided by 4. So 32 divided by 7 means 32 sevenths means 32 divided by 7. You've got 32 sevenths and you split them into sections of sevenths. You have got 1, 2, 3, 4 whole ones, and you've got 4 left over out of 7. 4 and 4/7. Now convert the improper fractions to mixed numbers, remembering that this line means divide. Pause the video while you do this. So 17 divided by 4 means how many 4's are in 17? 4, 8, 12, 16. That's 4 whole ones. And what do you add 16 to get to 17? Because that's your remainder. So it's 1 left over, so it's 4 remainder 1. But we write that as 4 and 1/4. So if there's a quarters here, you've got to have quarters here. What's 107 tenths as a mixed number? So you've got to do 107 divided by 10. How many 10's are in 107? So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. There's 10 whole 10's in 100. And what do you add to 100 to get to 107 for the remainder? So it's remainder 7. So 7 is your numerator and the denominator is always the same. So it's tenths. Tenths here, tenths here. If you haven't done the next two yet, pause the video and work them out. So 18 divided by 5, how many 5's are in 18? 5, 10, 15. That's 3 whole ones. What do you add to 15 to get to 18? 15 in your head, 16, 17, 18. So that's 3 remainder 3. And your denominator is 5. And what's 21 divided by 3? So how many 3's are in 21? and it's 7. And there's no fraction left over, so it's just a whole number for this one. Now we're going to convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions. 5 whole ones, and each whole one is split into sixths because you're working in sixths. So 5 whole bars, each split into 6 pieces, plus 2 more pieces. How many sixths are there altogether? Pause the video while you write the fraction as an improper fraction. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots of sixths. So 5 times 6, 5 lots of 6 is 30. If I was to count all of these up to here, I'd get 30. Plus 2 more, which is the 2 here, it's 32. 32 sixths. And we've done this before in class, haven't we? That a quick way to do it is 5 times 6 is 30 plus 2 is 32. And it's always the same denominator, 32 sixths. Now have a go at converting these mixed numbers to improper fractions. Imagine 2 bars that are each split into fifths, plus another bar with 4 shaded in. 10 bars, each split into 6 pieces, plus another bar with just 4 sections, 4 sixths shaded in. 5 bars, each split into sevenths, plus another bar with just 2 sections shaded in. And 30 bars, each split into 3 sections, with an extra bar with 2 pieces shaded in. This is your last slide of the day. Pause the video while you write them as improper fractions. So the quick way is 2 times 5, 2 lots of 5 fifths is 10 fifths, plus 4 more is 14 fifths. We've got 10 lots of 6 sixths. 10 sixths are 60, plus 4, 64 sixths. 5 lots of 7 sevenths, so 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37 sevenths. And 30 lots of 3 thirds, so 30 times 3 is 90, plus 2 is 92 thirds. Well done if you got those right. See you tomorrow.